I'm Roderick D. Talley, and I'd like to welcome you all to our book review number 11. Now, before I get into this review, I'd like to remind you all of how I actually conduct reviews. First of all, I only give positive feedback to these writers because there's really no wrong way to write. And number two, there's already enough critics in the world, so I want to make sure I'm using my energy to reverse that and actually encourage my fellow writers to keep getting their stories out and keep encouraging other people with their stories. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce the next book that I'll be reviewing, and it is The Win by Miss Shalonda McFarland. Now, I had the pleasure of meeting this wonderful young lady at a book festival over in Houston recently. I think it was last year back in, I think it was October. And she was a very vibrant woman, very intelligent woman also. She was telling me how she not only has written a few books, but she also does music. And she had a gospel album. And if any of you have seen some of my earlier reviews, you've noticed that I've used some of her music as the beginning theme song for some of the videos I've done. So I'd like to thank her again for allowing me to use her stuff. And I definitely encourage you all to check out her music as well. So this book is basically about a group of church members who did a lottery pool and they actually won. Now this is a fictional book and it does have a bit of humor in it as well, but it also presents some great lessons and some great insight on some people that the lives of people and how their lives are changed when they do win the lottery, which actually goes into my first point of the 4 points that I want to present. The first point is that I really liked about this book is that it shows examples of how easily large amounts of money can change the thought process of all people, even Christians. I mean, with their families, with their friends, church members, etc. This is something that we've been talking about in church. I think it was a couple months ago. We were talking about how, when you receive your abundance, because God does want us to live abundantly. There's nothing wrong with having money or things like that. But it's about when we receive our abundant blessings, are we prepared for it? It's important to know that you have to prepare your heart for it. A lot of people have a heart for the money rather than having a heart for God and actually do His will. When you have that heart for money, like I said, there's nothing wrong with having money, but when your love for money is greater than your love for God, that's when it's a real problem. That's when when people do get money, people do elevate in their lives. Sometimes you do let that success change you. That's why your heart has to be in the right place. Your heart needs to be focused on God, focused on His will, focused on helping people, and prepared to have it prepared to the point where you'll be able to really handle God's blessings, His abundant blessings, when you receive them. So the second part I really like about this book is that it presents several couples and not just their dilemmas after winning the lottery, but it presents dilemmas, their current challenges before they even won the lottery. So it kind of goes back into what they were kind of dealing with. And it kind of, you can kind of see how money can help certain situations, but in some situations, money won't be the solution to your problems. So I really like how some of these, how the author goes into the background and presents some of their current issues before actually experiencing this win that, this life-changing win of theirs. The third part that I really like about this book is that the author presents a chapter in which the pastor of the church that the members are attending has a bit of a conversation with a few other pastors from other churches, and it gives some considerations and insight from a leadership position. This is very vital because there are things that leaders, not just of a church, has to consider, like leaders of a business, leaders of your family, a household, anything like that, where there's things that have to consider that, from an overall perspective, that a lot of people who are in a leadership position might not see. Because especially with the church, you have to make sure that all of your actions that your church is taking is in alignment with God's will. So I'm very glad the author actually presents a section geared towards the pastors to kind of help give you some insight from their viewpoint. And the fourth and final point that I like about this book is that the author presents multiple questions for discussion for each chapter. It gives you a chance to, engage some critical thinking, and especially like if you're using this for a book club or something like that. And it also gives some facts of past lottery winners. For example, 44% of lottery winners had spent their entire earnings within the first 5 years of winning the lottery. So it's got a lot of good discussion questions, facts in it, things like that. So I definitely encourage you all to get this book. If you're interested to get this book, there's a few ways where you can find it. It's available on her website, www.shalondamcfarland.com. And you can also link up with her on social media pages such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. And until next time, God bless you all. I'd like to thank the wonderful Mrs. Shalonda McFarland for allowing me to use her music. Make sure y'all check out our album, available now on Amazon.